This was me a few weeks ago. For some reason, I was experiencing an overwhelming sense of boredom. When I get like this, scrolling on my phone is usually distracting enough to stimulate my brain. But this time, it didn't. I felt like I needed something different. I tried thinking of the most random thing I could do to escape my boredom, but wasn't successful. I even tried playing video games, but that didn't work either. So I reached a point where I just put everything aside. And as I sat there, I started thinking, why can't I just sit, relax, and do nothing? So that's when it hit me. What happens if I let myself be bored and do nothing? So I got up and sat on the floor and did nothing. While sitting there, my mind began to wonder, why do I try so hard to avoid boredom? Perhaps being bored is not as bad as I make it out to be. Maybe it's an opportunity to think and clear my mind. As I reflected on those thoughts for a few minutes, I began to realize that being bored might be a superpower. Alright, I may be exaggerating a little bit, but I actually do think there are some benefits to being bored. As I continued with my experiment of learning to be in a state of boredom, the word self-reflection kept popping into my head over and over. It reminded me of one of Socrates' most influential quotes in Plato's Apology, which is the unexamined life is not a life worth living. For context, when Socrates said those words, he wanted to emphasize the significance of understanding oneself, as well as the importance of personal growth. Keeping in mind Socrates' statement on the importance of self-questioning, I became more intentional about embracing boredom, hoping it would challenge me to meditate more on my thoughts. And so far, I've learned more about myself from being reflective. I became aware that when I pick up my phone and scroll aimlessly or play video games to phase out my boredom, those moments are me trying to avoid being alone with my thoughts. I find it difficult to sit silently with my thoughts because it forces me to scrutinize my life. I've observed that when I critique my life, I discover certain habits I'm not proud of. But as difficult as it may be, being in a state of introspection helps me replace my bad habits with healthy ones. As a side note, when reflecting on my habits and actions, my perspective is deeply influenced by my faith. I can be very critical of myself, especially when I fail to stay within the boundary of what God wants for me. I think many Christians would identify with that. But that's a topic for a different video. Another way that I try to be intentional about accepting boredom and reflection is by reminding myself that introspection is meaningful. Reflecting on my life makes me more conscious about my lifestyle. As I have settled into this habit of letting myself experience boredom, I've gained a sense of mental peace I didn't have before. Listening to my conscience and thoughts has helped me find purposeful ways of living a fulfilling life. I still have the urge to seek out distractions when I'm in a state of boredom, but I'm more willing to reject those expedient paths to excitement. I understand that these distractions will only give me a dopamine hit, keeping me in a cycle of wanting more. Now, when I feel bored, I put my thoughts on paper, pursue my hobbies, read a book, and most importantly, I'm more intentional about my faith. Boredom may not be a superpower, but it has allowed me to discover parts of myself I was unaware of. It also has been refreshing to be present in the moment. I encourage you guys to use those boring times in your life to reflect, because you never know what interesting part of yourself you might discover.